The air in the prison cell was cold. It was always cold. Kale, a human, sat on the hard metal bench. His hands were bound by glowing blue cuffs. He was the last one. The war against the Krask Empire had been short and brutal. Humanity fought hard, but their simple metal bullets were useless against the Krask's energy shields. Kale was the captain of the last ship, the Defiance. They had made a final desperate jump into enemy territory. It was a suicide mission. They had damaged the Krask's main command ship, but they were captured. His crew was gone. Now only he remained. Heavy footsteps echoed outside his cell. Two massive Krask guards, covered in dark gray armor, entered. They were tall, almost 8 feet, and their faces looked like hard stone. They said nothing. They never did. They just grabbed Kale by his arms and pulled him to his feet. Kale did not fight. There was no point. He walked between them, his bare feet cold on the smooth, dark floor of the alien ship. They were taking him somewhere. He knew this was the end. They moved through long hallways. Other Krask soldiers watched him pass. Their eyes were cold and full of hate. Humans were pests to them. An infestation. Kale kept his head held high. He would not show them fear. Finally, they reached 2 massive doors. The doors opened slowly, revealing a huge room. It was the throne room. At the far end, on a high platform, sat Empress Xylia. She was not like her soldiers. She was slender, almost delicate, and her skin was a pale, shining silver. She wore a crown of dark metal that floated just above her head. Her eyes, however, were as cold as deep space. She watched Kale as he was forced to walk to the center of the room. The room was filled with Krask nobles. They clicked and hissed in their own language, laughing at the human prisoner. Kale stood alone in the middle of the giant hall. Empress Xylia smiled. It was a cruel, sharp smile. She raised one long silver hand. The room fell silent. "Human," she said. Her voice was like smooth glass, but it was loud and clear. It was spoken in perfect English, a tactic to show her power. "You are the last of your resistance. Your species tried to fight us. You failed." Kale said nothing. He just stared at her. "Your world is ours," she continued. "Your people are our servants. But you were a captain. You caused us trouble. You destroyed my favorite sub-commander. For that, you must be an example." She leaned forward on her throne. "I could simply kill you. A quick blast from a rifle. But that is no fun. My people deserve a show. They deserve to see the weakness of humanity." She clapped her hands once. A low, deep sound echoed through the room. It was a growl. It was a sound that shook the very floor. From a dark tunnel beside the throne, something was walking. Thud. Thud. The Krask noble stepped back, making space. Even the armored guards looked nervous. Kale's heart pounded in his chest, but he did not move. Into the light stepped the beast. It was a monster. It was the size of a small ship, covered in thick black hide that looked like natural armor. It had 6 legs, each ending in a claw as long as a man's arm. Its head was massive, with jaws that could crush metal. This was a chimera, the Empress's personal predator. It was her symbol of power, a creature from a dead world that obeyed only her. The beast's eyes, bright red and intelligent, fixed on Kale. A rope of saliva dripped from its jaw. It let out another low growl. It was clearly hungry. Empress Xylia stood up. She looked beautiful and terrible. She pointed one long silver finger directly at Kale. "Chimera," she commanded. Her voice was sharp and clear. "Kill him." The crowd cheered. The guards raised their weapons, just in case. Kale closed his eyes for a second. This was it. The chimera moved. It was surprisingly fast for its size. It crossed the distance to Kale in just a few seconds. Kale opened his eyes. He would look death in the face. The beast stood directly in front of him. It was so tall, Kale had to look straight up. He could feel its hot, wet breath on his face. The smell was awful, like rotten meat and a strange spice. The monster's giant, red eyes stared into his. Kale did not scream. He did not run. He just stood very still. He stared back at the beast. The chimera opened its giant mouth. Kale could see rows of teeth, each one a sharp blade. This would be a quick death, but the beast paused. It stopped. Its mouth was open, inches from Kale's head. But it did not bite. The room, which had been loud with cheers, slowly became quiet. The Empress frowned. "What is it waiting for?" she whispered. The chimera let out a small, confused sound. It was not a growl. It was a whine. It slowly closed its mouth. It leaned its massive head forward. Kale held his breath. The beast sniffed him. Its large, wet nose touched Kale's shoulder. It sniffed his neck. It sniffed his hair. Kale could feel the creature's entire body vibrate as it breathed him in. Then, something impossible happened. The chimera's red eyes softened. The low growl in its chest stopped. It pulled its head back slightly. It looked at Kale one more time, not with hunger, but with recognition. And then, the ultimate predator, the most feared beast in the Krask Empire, did the one thing no one could have predicted. It lowered its massive head. It bent its thick front legs. The plates of its armor scraped against the floor. The KHY single quotes MER, bowed. It bowed its head to the human prisoner. The silence in the throne room was total. The Krask nobles were frozen. The guards lowered their rifles, confused. Kale himself was in shock. He stared at the monster, which was now kneeling before him like a loyal dog. Empress Zilia's face turned from confusion to a deep dark red. Her silver skin flushed with anger. This was an insult. This was impossible. I sighed. "Kill him," she screamed, her voice echoing with rage. The chimera heard her command. It turned its head slowly to look at the Empress. Then it let out a growl. But this growl was not for Kale, it was for her. The beast stood up. It did not attack Kale. It took one step and stood between Kale and the Empress. It faced its master. It snarled, baring its teeth at Empress Xilia. It was protecting the human. Empress Zalia's face was terrifying. Her silver skin seemed to glow with red-hot anger. Her beauty was gone, replaced by pure rage. The entire throne room was frozen. No one dared to move. No one even dared to breathe. Her creation, her ultimate symbol of power, the chimera, was protecting a human. A human! Guards! She shrieked. Her voice was no longer smooth. It was sharp and cracked with fury. Kill the human. And put that traitor down. Fire now. The two guards near the throne were loyal. They lifted their energy rifles. These were powerful weapons, designed to stop rampaging aliens. They aimed their bright red targeting lasers at Kale's chest. Before they could fire, the chimera moved. It was not a lunge. It was not an attack. It was a movement. The beast was simply too fast. In 1 second, it swung its massive armored tail. The tail hit both guards at the same time. There was a loud crack of breaking armor and bone. The guards flew across the room like broken dolls. They slammed into the far wall and did not get up. Their rifles clattered on the floor. The other nobles screamed and scrambled backward, trying to get away. The chimera did not look at them. It stepped back, standing fully over Kale. It shielded him with its own body. It turned its head toward the throne and roared. This roar was different. It was not a hungry growl. It was a challenge. It was a warning to the Empress herself. Kale was still in shock, but his mind was racing. The glowing blue cuffs were still on his wrists. He was helpless. But this This monster was protecting him. He looked up at the beast's giant head. It was so close, he could see the muscles moving under its thick black hide. "Easy," Kale said. His voice was quiet, but clear. "Easy, big guy." The monster's red eyes snapped down to look at him. It had heard him. The deep growl in its chest softened, just a little. It was still angry, but it was listening. "I'm not going to hurt you," Kale said, not knowing why. "It's okay." The chimera leaned its head down, just for a second, and nudged Kale's shoulder with its nose. It was the same gesture a horse or a dog might make. It was a sign of trust. This entire time, Empress Xylia had been watching. Her rage was now mixed with a cold, terrible curiosity. She saw the beast listen to the human. She saw the gentle nudge. Her pet, her weapon, had replaced her. "Stop," she commanded. More guards were running into the room, their weapons ready. But they stopped when they heard her voice. The Empress slowly sat back down on her throne. The cruel smile returned to her face. It was even colder than before. "Well, well," she whispered, though her voice carried through the silent room. "This is interesting. A primitive human has tamed the chimera, the beast my ancestors bred for 1,000 years. She looked directly at Kale. "You think you are its new master human? You think you are an alpha? You think you have won?" Kale did not answer. He just stood very still, under the protection of the giant beast. "You have won nothing," Xylia said. "You have only chosen a more painful death. For both of you." She stood up again. "Guards, do not attack. Use the shock poles. Herd them. Take the prisoner and his pet to the arena." The nobles gasped. The arena was for major executions, for spectacle. "My people came for a show," the Empress announced to the room. "And they will get one. We will see how strong this bond is. We will see if this human alpha can lead his beast against a true champion." She pointed a long silver finger at the exit. "Take them to the pits. Prepare the juggernaut." A new kind of fear filled the room. Even the guards looked pale. The juggernaut. No one had used that in years. The guards, though terrified of the chimera, were more terrified of their Empress. They grabbed long metal poles that sparked with blue energy. They formed a wide circle around Kale and the beast. "Go! Move!" They shouted, poking the air. The chimera snarled, ready to attack again. It snapped its jaws at the sparking poles. "No," Kale said, putting his cuffed hands on the beast's leg. It was like touching a warm, armored wall. "We have to go." "It's okay. We go together." The beast looked at him confused. It did not want to obey the guards, but it seemed to understand Kale. With a low, unhappy rumble, it lowered its head. It began to walk. Kale walked beside its massive front leg. The guards kept their distance, herding them like cattle. The chimera would not let any guard get close to Kale. They were marched out of the throne room. They went down dark metal hallways that Kale had never seen before. The air grew hotter and smelled of rust and something foul. After a long walk, they reached a giant circular metal gate. It slid open with a loud groan, revealing a vast dark space. "In!" A guard yelled, poking the chimera's back leg with a shock pole. The beast roared in pain and anger, spinning around. But Kale calmed it. "In! It's okay." "In we go." Kale walked into the darkness. The chimera followed him, its claws clicking on the stone floor. They were in a huge underground cell. It was dark, but Kale could see it was the size of a building. This was one of the holding pits beneath the arena. With a terrible loud slam, the metal gate shut behind them. They were locked in. Kale was alone in the dark with a giant predator. He was not afraid of the beast. He was afraid of what was coming. From somewhere else in the darkness, deep in another tunnel, Kale heard it. It was a sound of metal grinding on stone. And then a new roar. A different roar. It was not biological. It was mechanical, and it was angry. The juggernaut was waking up. The darkness in the pit was heavy. Kale stood beside the chimera's massive leg. He could feel the beast's muscles, tense and ready. It was not afraid, but it was on edge. That mechanical roar echoed again, closer this time. Kale knew he had to do something. His hands were still bound by the glowing blue cuffs. He was useless in a fight. But the beast, it listened to him. It trusted him. "Hey," Kale said softly. He reached out with his cuffed hands and touched the creature's armored hide. The chimera lowered its giant head, its red eyes looking at him in the dark. "I'm going to call you Buddy," Kale said. It was a simple human word. A word for a friend. "My name is Kale. We are in this together, Buddy. Whatever comes through that door. We fight it, together." The chimera huffed, a warm breath washing over Kale. It seemed to understand. It licked his shoulder once with its huge, rough tongue. It was a promise. Krrraa on NK. A blinding light flooded the pit. A massive gate on the far side was rising. Kale shielded his eyes. He heard a sound he had not heard in weeks, the roar of a crowd. Thousands of Krask were cheering, their voices full of bloodlust. "Go!" shouted a guard from a speaker above. "Face the juggernaut!" The chimera Buddy let out a defiant roar. It walked forward, toward the light. Kale walked with it, protected by its side. They stepped out onto bright, red sand. They were in a colossal arena. Every seat was filled with Krask nobles and soldiers, cheering for their death. High above, in a royal box, Empress Xylia watched them. Her cold smile was back. She was certain they were about to die. On the other side of the arena, a second gate was opening. The mechanical grinding sound was deafening. Out of the tunnel came the juggernaut. It was not a living thing. It was a machine of death. It was 3 times the size of the chimera, a walking tank made of dark scarred metal. It had 6 thick, mechanical legs. Its body was covered in spinning saws, sharp spikes, and 2 large nozzles on its front. The juggernaut slammed its metal foot onto the sand, shaking the ground. It turned its glowing red sensor, a single hateful eye, and locked onto Kale and Buddy. The crowd went wild. This was the show they wanted. Buddy growled, lowering its body, ready to pounce. But it looked at Kale first. It was waiting. Waiting for a command. Kale realized the truth. The Empress had called him an alpha. In this moment, he was. This incredible creature would do whatever he said. But he was a captain, not a beast tamer. He had to think like a captain. "Okay, Buddy," Kale said, his voice steady. "It's big, but it's slow. It's a machine. All machines have a weakness. We have to be fast, fast." The juggernaut moved. It charged, faster than Kale expected. "Move, left!" Kale shouted. Buddy reacted instantly. It leaped to the left, light on its feet. At the same second, the juggernaut fired. 2 streams of bright orange fire erupted from its nozzles, burning the spot where they had just been standing. "It has a flamethrower. Don't get in front of it," Kale yelled. The juggernaut turned its heavy body, its saws spinning. It swung a massive metal arm. Buddy was too close. The arm hit the chimera in the side, sending it tumbling across the sand. "Buddy!" Kale cried. The beast rolled, roaring in pain, but it got to its feet instantly. Its black hide was scratched, but not broken. It was furious. It charged the juggernaut. "No, wait. Not the front!" Kale yelled, but Buddy was too angry. It leaped at the juggernaut's metal face. The juggernaut simply swatted it away again, like a fly. The machine was too strong. Buddy landed hard. It looked at Kale, confused. Its strength was not working. "Listen to me," Kale commanded, his captain's voice cutting through the noise. "You are faster. Use your speed. Go around it." The Juggernaut focused on Kale. It saw the small, weak human. It lifted its giant metal foot to crush him. "Buddy now." "The leg." Kale screamed. The Juggernaut's foot came down. Kale dived and rolled, the sand exploding where he had been. But Buddy had listened. While the machine was focused on Kale, the Chimera ran around its back. It found a weak spot, the joint where the metal leg connected to the body. It was less armored. Buddy bit down with all its power. There was a horrible sound of tearing metal and sparking wires. The Juggernaut roared, a mechanical scream of pain. It stumbled, one of its legs now broken and dragging. "Yes. Good boy," Kale shouted. The crowd was becoming quiet. This was not supposed to happen. The Juggernaut was damaged. It turned, ignoring Kale, and focused all its anger on Buddy. It fired its flamethrowers, but Buddy was too fast. It dodged and weaved. Kale studied the machine. It was built for war. It had to have a power source. He saw it. On its back, between two armor plates, was a thick bundle of blue glowing cables. "Buddy, on its back." "You have to get on its back." How could the beast get up there? "The arm." Kale pointed. "Use the arm. Get on top." The Juggernaut swung its spiked arm at Buddy again. This time, Buddy did not dodge. It timed its move perfectly. It jumped onto the arm as it swung by. In one more powerful leap, Buddy was on the Juggernaut's back. The machine shook and spun, trying to get the Chimera off. But Buddy held on tight. It found the blue cables. It bit down. A massive explosion of blue energy threw Buddy off. The Juggernaut froze. All its lights went out. Its saws stopped spinning. It stood completely still for 1 second, and then it crashed forward onto the sand, defeated and dead. Silence. The entire arena, filled with thousands of Krask, was completely silent. Kale was breathing hard, his hands still cuffed. Buddy was on the ground, smoking slightly, but it stood up. It shook its massive head and walked over to Kale. The beast was tired, but it was victorious. It nudged Kale's chest gently. Kale leaned his forehead against the creature's head. "You did it, Buddy, we did it." He then turned. He and the Chimera stood together in the middle of the silent arena. Kale looked up. He stared directly at Empress Azalea. Her face was white. Her cold smile was gone. She was not angry. She was not afraid. She was humiliated. In front of her entire empire, a single, cuffed human and her own traitor beast had defeated her ultimate weapon. She had lost. Kale did not smile. He did not shout. He just stared, his eyes holding hers. He, the human, was the alpha. He, the prisoner, now held all the power. And she, the Empress, had no idea what to do. The war was not over. It was just beginning.